I think Frank was fairly relaxed. I think as far as he's concerned, he's got the right to stage this fight. This fight has been sold out. Of course, he wants it to do huge numbers when it comes from a pay-per-view point of view, and that's why I think he wants Dillian to speak, to try and sell the fight, to try and boost the amount of money that he can earn from this fight. I think this squabble that's going on, as frustrating as it is to listen to it, as great as it is to bring it to the listeners on talkSPORT, I think the fight will definitely go ahead. But the squabbling that's going on is a side plot I don't think we need, because the fight sells itself. It's a brilliant fight. It's a chance for Dillian Whyte to get what he's always wanted, which is a world title fight. He's fighting at Wembley Stadium, potentially 100,000 fans there as well. So hopefully they can put their differences to one side, and hopefully we get to speak to Dillian Whyte in Fight Week at the very least.
I'm sure we will. Simon, what we know is that you and I were in the thick of that on Friday when Benz and Frank were going at each other. It was a hell of an exchange.
Sure.
And Frank still sounds pretty angry.
Yeah, I mean, I also think Frank's a crafty old operator. He'll know that any publicity that's generated is good for him and good for the amount of people that want to watch the fight, irrespective of whether it's with the alternate camp in terms of the promoter for Dillian Whyte. I think universally, if you talk about the boxing world, and I have done over the last 2 or 3 days, I think we said it at the time. I said to you, when we get this guy back on after his ridiculous allegations, because I said to him before we went to the break, the problem for me is when you get a lawyer involved, you always end up in court, and here you are, you're a lawyer, and there's a problem. Whatever Dillian Whyte didn't get in his contract, whatever the problems they were, should have been negotiated in the bout agreement.
Yes, yeah.
They should have been done. They shouldn't have been signed. So this guy shooting for the moon and making ridiculous observations, I said to Jim in the break, the first thing he'll do is he'll antagonise Frank Warren. He'll say something incredibly condescending or incredibly provocative, and what he tried to do was diminish, because there's a history that people have a perception that Frank doesn't pay his bills or fighters don't get paid, so he went straight for, we want the money in escrow because you can't be trusted, and we've done a credit check on your business and it doesn't stand up, because he wanted to get into Frank. The bottom line is that Frank is right. They've paid more for this fight than anybody else was prepared to pay for it. So if Dillian is getting a percentage of a bigger pot, so he might have been in a similar position if they'd gone with Matchroom, right? He might have got a bigger percentage of a smaller pot. So he might have been in the net position. I'm hearing that this ridiculous argument about using his image, right? It is usual to use your image, and of course it's usual to ask people which image do you want them to use. But I understand now they're telling ESPN that they can't use Dillian Whyte's image to promote this fight. This is Disney. How did Dillian think he's going to get on in the world with big companies like that when you've got an idiot promoter like this guy potentially jeopardising his reputation? And Dillian needs to understand that this guy works for him. I'm not suggesting Frank's perfect, but I'm looking at this and go, it was an unseemly squabble. It resulted down to, in the end, about tickets and private. That should have all been negotiated in the contract.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done... You were very lucky that we gave you a mouthpiece on the radio, because clearly you haven't got one when you're negotiating a deal, because you're a bit of a buffoon, really.
So, James, when can we hear more of this from Frank?
Well, the first part of this interview will go out today at 5 p.m. on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. So it's a 3-part interview. We speak to Frank about his relationship with Tyson from the very beginning, from their very first meeting, to helping Tyson emerge from the rubble that he was, and the situation he was in 2016 with the drug problems, with the mental health struggles he had, and how he rebuilt Tyson Fury, and how Tyson Fury rebuilt himself, and the incredible trilogy we saw with Deontay Wilder, and what has led us to this point. So there's plenty more fireworks in the interview as well, but I think it's fascinating. Frank telling us, I'm not dealing with Jeffrey Benz. The last person in the world he wants to try to bully is me.
James, just going back to Dillian Whyte, and obviously his manager Jeffrey Benz has not negotiated properly the contract, the bout contract. Just going back to Dillian Whyte, as an athlete, you control the controllables. Is he not missing an opportunity by not selling himself to the US audience, by doing these social media, by letting them see his personality and how hard he's working? Because whether he wins his fight or loses his fight, that is the future, and that's where there's a massive audience. Is he not missing an opportunity of selling himself?
I think you're completely right, Trevor. I understand Dillian's frustration. I think it comes from a principle point of view. He thinks he should be earning a bigger split. Thinks he should be earning more than this 80-20 split. However, when you consider the amount of money he's earning. Now, Tyson Fury said he's earning 32 times what Dillian Whyte's ever earned before in terms of what Dillian's going to earn. I don't think that's quite the case. I think he has earned slightly more for some of his fights.
But he's bound to say that. He's getting under his skin even saying that.
But the issue is, we should be hearing from Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte, the journey he's been on, when you consider his background, his upbringing, it's been an incredible journey to put himself in a position where he can fight for a world title. I think he's missing the opportunity to be on the centre stage, to conduct these interviews, to showcase his personality, because I've spent a lot of time with Dillian. He's a really infectious character.
Guy.
He's a really interesting character.
Yeah.
He's missing a trick. I think maybe he's being misled. But one thing that is clear is he needs to turn up for that weigh-in. We'll be there, won't we, for the Whyte and Jordan show, for the weigh-in.
Yep.
He needs to turn up for that, or there'll be no fight.
Yeah,
he will.
From what I understand, he will actually, all the fight week obligations he has.
James, listen, thanks for this. Simon, in a word, or a couple of words, percentage chance of Whyte winning it?
Same as his purse split.
20%.
Okay, all right. We'll go with that. James, thank you very much. James Savunda with us here in studio this morning. It's 11:45.
Jim Whyte and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.